I was asked to make a few comments as someone who read political sociology, who ordinarily lives in Barbados and was there for the last general election. What happened? What, in my opinion, transpired politically in Barbados in May 2018? And I want to speak about this, and I want to speak about it frankly, because I think it is something that needs to be said, and I think it needs to be said in a constructively critical manner that we have talked about earlier. Between 2008, when the DLP took office, and 2018, when they were routed at the polls, while the party, in my estimation, was still of the people and by the people, there was a sense amongst the populace that the DLP was no longer for the people. The seeming failure of the last administration to communicate effectively and account to the people, the imposition of an unmanageable tax burden, the ignoring of rumors of corruption, the release of a manifesto that contained simplistic errors and was issued after the special electorate had voted, and most importantly, an egregious homophobic, bordering on misogynistic election campaign created a serious and fatal disconnect between the government and the governed. And for that, the DLP paid the ultimate price, an unprecedented electoral defeat. The losing of nearly every box in every constituency and no candidate coming within 500 votes of the nearest winner says it all. And nothing was more symbolic of that disconnect between the government and the governed was when we lost St. John. It was an inconceivable loss, the former seat of the Right Excellent Barbados and the spiritual home of the Democratic Labour Party. It was if you were hearing that song in the back of your head by Brighton, I gonna milk your goat, I gonna sink your boat, and next I gonna beat you with my ex.
I think she knows.
This is serious. In 1992, when Bill Clinton successfully defeated George H.W. Bush in the presidential election, there was a famous campaign slogan which said, "It's the economy, stupid," which for Barbados in 2018 translated to, "It's all about leadership." And that was the essential cause, in my estimation, for the democratic rebellion that took place and the political earthquake that followed. Political leadership, as I learned recently, leadership over in Windrush is not about title or designation. It is about impact, influence, inspiration, and integrity. And what do I mean by that? Impact involves getting results. Influence is about creating and spreading a vision. Inspiration is to get others to follow you. And integrity is the means to ensure that what is done happens in a just and compassionate manner. We saw that disconnect. And what about leadership? If and when a political leader senses that he or she has run their course, they have a duty, they have a responsibility to share that well in advance of those they lead, and where necessary, make way. But however, it would be unfair for any party hierarchy or any candidates in this last landslide not to assume some responsibility for their failure to act when they did or should have known better. The writing was on the wall. Where are we now? In most democracies, when a political party suffers such a catastrophic defeat, as we saw with David Cameron, the chairman or the president and the general secretary, who function in the corporate equivalent of chairman and CEO, along with the leading executives, normally tender their resignation with immediate effect. It is done, and it is done for the critical reason of rebuilding the processes so that a healing can take place. It is not that they are to be kicked out or that they don't have a role to play any longer. It is simply that their presence remains synonymous with failure and despair, and they should feel duty-bound to make way, and in so doing, relieve the institution of that burden of negativity. But despite what some within the country, and even some within this party may feel, the DLP, in my estimation, is far from dead.
Yep.
In 1956, with no seats in that general election, the DLP was able to win the government 5 years later. In 1986, with only 3 seats, the DLP was able to win a government 8 years later. And in 1999, with 2 seats, the DLP was able again to win the government 9 years later. The political race is not for the swift or the strong, but for those who endure to the end. And this should not be seen as a threat to the government of the day, but a reassurance that our democracy remains strong. Furthermore, I have a strong sense that the spirit of Barrow lives on. But it is time for us as a nation to write a new narrative, a sequel to Barrow's vision that positions Barbados for the 21st century while extolling the much needed but seemingly lost virtues of integrity, compassion, and confidence, which when combined with vision and pragmatism will allow us again to punch above our weight. However, for a new DLP to emerge, we have got to get rid of some old leadership baggage. This baggage, in my estimation, was created following the death of Barrow and got piled up after. And what am I referring to? First, it was the split in the party with the emergence of the NDP, which caused the loss of a significant cadre of leaders. Then there was the leadership crisis in the early 1990s, the no-confidence vote in Parliament, and the loss of a further cadre of leaders and the election defeat that followed. Then came the leadership crisis in the late 1990s, the emergence of O&Ms, the politics of inclusion, and the 1999 major electoral defeat, which led to the further hemorrhage of our leaders. This confluence of events, in my estimation, gave rise to a millennial DLP with a depleted core leadership, and which some onlookers seemed to sense it had lost its way, and to others part of its soul. The consequence of all of which, with this political leadership baggage, was the 2018 political slaughter. But I say to people, let not your heart be troubled. Because there's a wonderful quote from Winston Churchill that says this: success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts.
Yep.
And so to the members of the DLP, I say simply, as was said earlier, this is not a time for despair or acrimony, neither recrimination nor the settling of political vendettas. It is a time for all hands on deck to build the DLP anew so that the party can continue to write its name on history's page. I will end by paraphrasing the Right Excellent L. Walton Barrow, who said, which he said in 1966, if the soul of this party has to be laid bare, There is no better time to do that than now, so that we know what we are, who we are, and where we are going. So may God continue to bless the DLP and to bless this fair land of ours, Barbados. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues, for the opportunity.